or a cult. Or like,
You can think of it as, the attraction of gravity, something like a bowl, and this guy will be sort of wandering black hole. Unless it's been kicked out with a huge speed, in which case it would exit the galaxy and would be completely free floating, right? So that's possible too. But, black holes eventually, right, they will settle to the center. They'll be pulled in by the gravity because the biggest one will be in the center. But the black hole, even at the center of our own galaxy, is not sitting still, right? It kind of wobbles a little bit here and there. Like very small wobble, but it does.
So I wonder if we ever feel the wobble.
But, well, we don't feel the Earth rotating, do we? So forget it, Molly. We're not going to feel the wobble.
I don't know. I'm just thinking Chandra was out in that boat. He did a bunch of math, came up with black holes. Maybe he felt the wobble.
But, when you think that you have equations in mathematics that can really describe the natural world, I mean, surprisingly well, right? I mean, that is still a kind of a miracle. Like, why math as a language works so well in describing the phenomena we see in nature, right? And I think part of, tied in with all of that is like that, the so-called information paradox, which is no longer a paradox. The fact that, what really happens when light, matter, anything crosses this sort of the sacred boundary of a black hole called the event horizon, a point of no return, right? And I think that's where I can now bring up that Hawking story that you.
Oh yeah. I'll just jump in here to say that before the interview, I told Priya I wanted to talk to her about Stephen Hawking and this idea that he came up with that's now called Hawking radiation, but it has to do with what happens to stuff after it falls into a black hole.
So Hawking, I knew him in Cambridge, and I had the real privilege of talking to him about my thesis work, some of which was on black holes and some of which was on dark matter. And I think one of the analogies that he had to think about, information and whether you can retrieve it or not, right, was that imagine you had an Encyclopedia Britannica. Okay? So you have the full volume in front of your hands, you have it in your hand, you're looking up New Haven, Connecticut, all the details of population, geography, etc. Now you put the encyclopedia in a box, and you burn it. And the box is really tight. Nothing leaves the box, right? So all the remains of the encyclopedia, all the ash, the carbonated ash is sitting inside that box. Nothing's left that box, right? Mm-hmm. So at some level, there is no information that has been lost as such, right? It's still there. It's just that, it's no longer written in a language, in English, that we understand. And we also don't know how to retrieve that information from char, right? From charred charcoal. Like, we just don't know how to extricate that information. So that's the situation. That, the information is most likely not lost. It's just that we do not yet know how it is stored, like how it mutates, like once it crossed the event horizon, how does it transmute? What does it transmute into? In this analogy, it transmutes into like ash. But we don't know how and what it transmutes to, and we don't know how to recover the information from whatever it has transmuted to.
And then how does sort of his idea of Hawking radiation tie into the metaphorical ash?
Oh yeah, so the metaphor, so Hawking radiation, basically black holes should be radiating energy off because vacuum is not completely empty, so you have particles and antiparticles that are whizzing around, and occasionally around a black hole you could have an antiparticle that crosses the event horizon, but its particle equivalent is on the other side, right? And so you have this kind of process by which you have energy supposedly coming out of the black hole, right? So there's energy loss, there's a temperature, and there's therefore evaporation. You can associate a temperature with a black hole, you can associate an area with the black hole, and you can associate an entropy with the black hole. And so therefore an object that has entropy and has a temperature will evaporate. Okay, but it takes a long time for evaporation. So none of the black holes that we are seeing and we are measuring in the universe, stellar mass black holes or supermass, they are not going to evaporate anytime soon. Okay? Okay, so those are pretty stable. But any little guys that formed, primordial black holes that formed right after the Big Bang, if they were less than 10 to the 15 grams, they would have evaporated away by today.
This idea that there's a particle that could escape out of a black hole, that there was something inside the black hole that knows about the inside of the black hole and then it gets out to the universe. I always thought that image was a really beautiful, almost like human metaphor, because I thought, it's like we're all little black holes just bumbling around, and like we're giving off some hints of like what's happening inside of us and who we are and like what we've come across, and sometimes that's verbally and sometimes it's non-verbally. And now you're saying, to really add to the poetry, if you give off enough, you disappear.
That's right. No, but also we do disappear, in a wink of an eye, right? In terms of the age. I mean, our lifespans are like tiny compared to any other cosmic timescale, right? So we're like, it's a blink of an eye. We're here and we're gone. It really says something about, it captures the complexity of human beings, right? And the fact that you never really know everything that's there. You can never really know somebody completely, right? Stick around, because next up, we're surfing through the